We can't just have clean, justice-seeking factions now, can we? Hey guys, Dantix here, back with another Starfield exhaustive breakdown video. Today focusing on factions and enemies that we'll come to experience throughout the game. As much as any other storytelling mechanic, factions are important, giving you a way to experience gameplay from multiple different angles. One such angle being the ability to live out your space pirate fantasy, stealing ships and being rewarded for it. Another is living out your smuggler Han Solo fantasy, another being a cyberpunk businessman, maybe even a space cop, a cowboy, and many more. Factions are such a huge part of Bethesda RPGs that I thought we should run through all we know so far. So if you want to know extremely deep specifics of any other mechanic, check out my breakdown videos below. Be sure to stay tuned to find out how to win yourself a copy of Starfield or a 3080. Let's begin. Starfield's main faction is Constellation. They're the last group of space explorers. You joined them early on to uncover the mysteries of the artifact you found in the tutorial. If you want to dive deeper into this, check out the mysteries and story breakdown video below. Constellation contain your Golden Path, the main story missions. This is where you ask the big questions. Why are we here and what is it all for? Then we have the other main factions. In Bethesda games, these offer unique side quest lines and stories based around their own activities and struggles. In Skyrim, you had the Mage Guild, for example, who were your magic role-playing faction. You do missions with them and discover their secrets, ultimately becoming the leading member of the group. You could do this while completing the main storyline. It's much the same in Starfield. You'll be completing the main Constellation storyline, but while you do so, you get introduced to the other factions. According to Will Shen, the main storyline is a tour of the settled systems at first. You can go off the Golden Path at any time and complete these missions for these factions. Bethesda want you to be able to play with all the faction lines independently of each other. You are, however, influencing how the factions turn out in big ways. For example, the politics of the Freestar Collective. What's more important? Is it justice or industry? Where will you nudge them, in which direction? So you don't necessarily end up as the head of every faction, but every major character will be reflecting on your choices. It could have far-reaching consequences for what the faction is and what it cares about. You may be deciding who lives or dies, who leaves the faction in some cases. So the members of Constellation might give you a quick introduction to the other factions. We see here that Space Cowboy Sam Coe is from the Freestar Collective, so he might introduce you to them, and with that in, you might be asked to help out, or at least negotiate a way in. We also saw how Barrett was entangled with the Crimson Fleet, so that might be your way in with them. You might be asked to spy on the faction from within, but you could, in fact, choose to take your pirate life seriously. We're unsure just how many factions there are in the game, but we can be sure of the major ones: Constellation, the United Colonies, the Freestar Collective, Ryujin Industries, and the Crimson Fleet. Along with these, we have minor factions you may only have small run-ins with or only butt heads with in combat. We have the Red Mile, Unfactioned Pirates, Violent Spacers, Va'ruun Religious Zealots, and more. The United Colonies are based in the capital city of New Atlantis, on the planet Jemison in the Alpha Centauri system. The UC and the Freestar Collective were involved in a bitter war 20 years before the start of Starfield. There has since been a shaky peace. The UC have your typical Earth-like ideals: government, military, expansion, law, discipline, and the legacy of humanity. They consider themselves the true children of Earth. We've also seen that they control the mining city of Cydonia on Mars. You might be reporting on the activities of the Crimson Fleet and keeping their borders safe. Expect it to be your traditional, let's do what's right for humanity faction with the obvious grey line skirting that comes with it. The dirt underneath the shiny exterior, if you will. Whereas the Freestar Collective is your space cowboy fantasy, people out in the frontier of space. The dirt is very much showing, but they're trying to be just and righteous, and seem like they pretend a little less to be flawless. They're located on the capital city of Aquila City on the planet Aquila in the system of Cheyenne. They don't seem as powerful militarily as the UC, but seem to have powerful industry. You may have missions involving keeping the peace and protecting the citizens. They rely on judgment and intuition to do what's best for the people. This is a space cowboy fantasy, so maybe you'll have to smuggle like Han Solo as well. If you want to focus on the shady business practices, however, you have Ryujin Industries, based in the city of Neon on the planet Voli Alpha in the Voli system. Neon is a floating fishing platform that was converted into a pleasure city when Xenofresh Corp realized that some fish could be harvested for their narcotic properties. Ryujin represents corporate life and has one of the best starts according to Will Shen. It's a company and you apply for a job and see if you cut the mustard. No doubt sneaky murder is involved. We see the player being super sneaky through vents and attacking a Slayton security force on Voli Alpha, so we can expect this kind of gameplay with the faction. Drugs, sex, and violence seem to be the way of the corpo. Everyone's seemingly getting chewed up and spit out by the city of Neon. This has some serious cyberpunk vibes. We can't just have clean, justice-seeking factions now, can we? If you've got morality issues, this isn't the faction for you. So if the United Colonies and the Freestar Collective are lawful and chaotic good respectively, and Ryujin is lawful evil, Crimson Fleet is chaotic evil. Crimson Fleet are located in a giant shipyard called the Key, which is located in the Krix system. They think everything belongs to them and always have. They kill, steal, and destroy to take what they want, and there are no exceptions. These are your main bad guys, and if you want to live the pirate life, your main allies. Well, as allied as you can be around ruthless, backstabbing pirates, matey. No doubt, very early on you'll get introduced to them, and if you want to steal ships, murder people, and get that sweet space booty, this is the way to go. I can't imagine Sarah Morgan and other members of Constellation will be happy with it, but no doubt there'll be companions that are. Everyone that plays Starfield is no doubt going to do at least one run where they lean heavily into being the bad guy, and Ryujin and Crimson Fleet factions will allow you to do that. Now, the minor factions. First up is the Va'ruun. They function as a threat you have to be wary of. They seem a little rarer than the pirates in the spaces you might be facing, but also seem to have advanced tech at their disposal. They worship the Great Serpent, and if you've taken the Serpent's Embrace trait, you'll be part of that religion and can avoid fights with them, alongside getting a buff for grav jumping and a debuff when you don't grav jump often enough. All heathens shall be made dust in time, according to them. So yes, another evil faction, but a neutral evil faction. Expect advanced robots and men in sleek spacesuits. Next is the Red Maw, which is located on the planet Porrima 3 in the Porrima system. They're a group of cyber runners which will most likely be hacking and causing mischief across the galaxy. This faction is likely to have their own missions, as when you visit a lady in the Red Maw, she says, "A new face. Is this the face of a brave runner here to challenge the Red Maw?" Well, are you? Do note that you can choose the Cyber Runner as a background, so note that in my mind that will come into play when you visit them. We haven't seen the need to fight them directly in combat yet, so this faction might just be a sneaky behind the scenes player that does very little actual combat. We've seen the Ecliptic mercenaries around as enemies as well as seen their ships. The ship you actually steal in the direct is in fact Ecliptic. These enemies will be fodder for you to take out the back and put down, but it's unclear if you'll interact with them like you can with the Red Maw or the Va'ruun. What is clear though is they'll be meat for the skill ranking grinder. And then we have unfactioned pirates. The pirates with no allegiance that you'll be fighting in different situations. The game has to have fodder to throw to the wood chipper of a badass character that you are. Speaking of, there'll be violent spaces as well, both of which you can launch into space in hilarious ways with no moral hang-ups. Both of these groups are unlikely to interact with you directly, as they function less of a faction and more of an enemy class. Then there'll be bounty hunters and mercs that you'll run into, especially if you have the wanted trait, which will have them randomly attacking you at times in exchange for a buff when you're low health. There'll be random security forces like we saw with the Slayton on Neon, who will most likely be hanging around the areas they protect. Finally, we'll have dangerous alien creatures to contend with, but they function more like an enemy type rather than a faction. Now, there are two factions that we've seen hints of in the traits section of the character builder, the Enlightened and the Sanctum Universum. Alongside the Va'ruun, these are religious factions. It's unclear just how involved they'll be, but we do know that you can select one or the other as a trait. And when you do, you get access to a unique chest from the faction you selected. So those are all the factions and enemies you'll come to face in Starfield. What do you think? Which faction are you going to be trying to muster favor with first? So let me know below. I recently upgraded to a 4090, so why not give away my 3080 and a few copies of Starfield? If you want to be in the running, all you need to do is be subscribed, hit the bell, and like and comment on my Starfield videos. For more entries, do the same on other Starfield videos or check out my Twitter and Discord. The winner will be chosen using RNG, so more entries give you more chances. Best of luck and thank you so much for watching. I'll be covering the game more than anyone else, so be sure to stay tuned. Ciao friends.